3.1. First toxicity, ecotoxicity test results for plant extracts are available. This we should meet at month 18. And the second milestone, 3.2, first toxicity, ecotoxicity test results for semiochemicals and pheromones are available. This is the same like the former on month 18. Next slide, please. So what was done so far at the work package 3? There are 3 things I would like to talk about. The set of model products for the proof of concept was determined. The methodologies for analyzing the regulation were decided. And the last one, first experimental results with model products are available. Next slide, please. So the set of model products for the proof of concept was determined. So we have 5 products were selected, and you can see them here in the table. I would go to and show you. On the left, the column on the left, we have the substance of the product. We have azadirachtin, garlic extract, pelargonic acid, lavandulyl sensioate, and dihydrochalcone. Now, regarding the categories, you can see we covered almost all categories. We have insecticide, nematocide, acaricide, herbicide, pheromone, and fungicide. Regarding the type, we have 3 types of models: plant extracts-based compounds, and pheromones. And regarding registration, you can see we have 4 products which are approved and 1 product which was not registered. So you can understand that for those approved products, we have quite a lot of data. And for the one that was not registered, there's very little data. So it would affect the way we would act with it in the work package. Next slide, please. The second thing I want to talk about is the methodologies for analyzing the regulation were decided. So how to analyze the regulation? This was a difficult question for us, and we were struggling with it. So we decided to divide it into 3 smaller questions. The first, what are the areas of the regulations which needs our attention? The second, what are the difficulties in those areas? And the third, what are the solutions that we can suggest for these difficulties? Next slide, please. So according to these questions, we have set steps to go forward. The analysis will be performed in 3 steps. Step number 1, identify areas of concern in the dossier. Step number 2, suggest solutions for these areas of concern. Step number 3, design new requirements and test according to those solutions. After we've done all 3 steps, we can start experiments according to the new requirements and tests suggested. And then we can get the proof of concept with model active compounds, which is actually the deliverable we should deliver at the end of the project. Next slide, please. So for the first thing, identify areas of concern in the dossier. How can we find such areas? This is a quite difficult question. So we suggest 2 approaches. The first approach is the experts approach, and the second approach is the data analysis approach. I will try to explain a little bit about those approaches. Next slide, please. So the expert approach. Where can we find experts to ask them? So experts have written their ideas in documents such as articles, like the article about decision tree and other articles about regulations. Also, we can find ideas in guidance documents of the EU and the OECD. And three, we can find ideas in references of other regulations from the world, as summarized already by RATION task 1.3. Now, using all this data, we can identify areas of concern in the dossier according to the expert's approach. Next slide, please. So what we've done so far in this thing, we have a first draft of the areas of concern is ready. And you can see it here, but I will not go over it. You can see it later. Next slide, please. Now, regarding the data analysis approach, what data can we analyze? So we have EFSA documents of botanicals applications. We have approved products documents, and we have rejected products documents, and we can look into both of them. By looking into application documents, we can find data gaps, not finalized issues, and critical concern issues. By doing this, we can identify areas of concern in a dossier according to the data analysis approach. And we are now in the process of performing this analysis. Next slide, please. So the third thing that we've done is first experimental results with model products are available. So the experiment that we already have a primary result from is evaluating toxicity of botanical broadband herbicide pelargonic acid on primary producers in the aquatic environment. This experiment is performed by Judith from Wageningen University, and I'll show you some of the first results. Next slide, please. So this experiment was done with plants in water. The plant is Elodea nutari, and you can see the different concentration of pelargonic acid, how they affect the plants. You can see that control and low concentrations, the plant look healthy, and when we start to raise the concentrations, you can see how it affects the plant. Next slide, please. So we have here basically the same experiment, but with another organism, Lemna minor. You can see also that high concentrations of pelargonic acid are affecting the plants. Next slide, please. So this is what we've done so far, and I'd like to talk now about our plans, our next steps. I go task by task. So start with task 3.1. Identify solution to weak points in the current risk assessment. Step number 2, design new requirements and test according to these solutions. Next step number 3, perform 5 experiments until month 18. And next step number 4, proceed with experiments to collect all relevant data from all 4 model plant extracts, mixture extracts, and purified extracts. Next slide, please. So I want to talk a little bit about next step number 3, perform 5 experiments until month 18. We have 5 planned experiments that already started or will start very soon. The first is a B test on the hydrochalcone. The second is toxicity evaluation of pelargonic acid on primary producers. in the aquatic environment. This experiment, I showed you the results just before. The third experiment is Drosophila and C. elegans as model organisms for toxicity tests. The fourth is degradation of the hydrochalcone on tomato fruits and the identification of degradation products. And the last one is soil dissipation of the hydrochalcone. Now you can see on the right side the names of the institutes and the researcher that will perform these experiments. Next slide, please. So regarding task 3.2, sorry. We are going to prepare an overview document on semiochemicals, in particular collecting and summarizing state-of-the-art, history of use, mode of action, technologies, and agricultural practices. We think that better knowledge will lead to better evaluation of semi-chemicals for regulation approval. Next slide, please. Now regarding task 3.3. Subtask 3.1, analytical determination of low-risk exposure. The following experiments are planned. One, degradation of model products on tomato fruits and identification of degradation products. This will be done for all four model products. And two, soil dissipation of model products. Again, we have 4 or 5 model products which are relevant. Subtask 3.2, exposure modeling and anticipated scenarios. The following actions are planned. 1, develop the scenarios for exposure of model products using soil dissipation data of task 3.1. 2, check exposure scenarios for the 2 approved model plant extracts, azadirachtin and garlic extracts. Use this data to suggest the way to perform exposure scenarios for plant extracts. 3, use relevant documents to suggest other solutions to perform exposure scenarios for plant extracts. Next slide, please. And the last task, 3.4, new risk assessment scheme for plant extracts, semiochemicals, and pheromones, and proof of concept. This task should start on month 24 and end on month 48. And it's actually, again, the deliverable DL 3.1 we should deliver on month 48. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ophir, for the presentation. Would like to ask the audience if there are questions for.
First, a few words about PARC. Today, I will present one of the activities in PARC, but the PARC, the Partnership for Assessment of the Risk of Chemicals, is a quite a big partnership. We are like 200 different partners, and we are now on the 2nd year of 7. The partnership is funded also by the Commission through the Horizon Europe, but it's kind of a designed partnership where the regulatory authorities play an active role in a way that's a little bit unique for this. It is coordinated by ANSES in France, and the idea is of PARC as a whole is to promote or develop new assessment methodologies, and also by ensuring active participation, also to ensure the regulatory uptake of new methodologies. and building confidence in the new methodology by participation from the regulatory agencies. So it's a unique collaboration, I would say. And validation then is, of course, a very important aspect of the research being done. And we have research both on human health and on the environment. But today I'm going to talk about environment. And maybe validation could be also something to discuss further. I'm here also to present this, also to see if there's any opportunities for a collaboration between the research we do in Activity 644 and RATION. So Activity 644 is part of PARC. It's risk assessment to support and promote efficient overall protection of biodiversity. And let's see here if I can move forward. There we go. The basics of 644 is to advance ERA, that is environmental risk assessment, and contributing to a shift in perspective from fragmentation to collaboration. We build in this activity quite a lot on a strategic initiative by EFSA, that is the Partnership for Next Generation Environmental Risk Assessment. And these figures I'm about to show here is from that roadmap report published in last year. So what we see and has as a starting point in our work in 644 is that we have regulatory systems where we do a lot of assessments in parallel and a little bit of a disconnected. Here we have different assessors here, are the little men to the left. And one of these silos that they sit in could be, for example, the authorization of plant protection products, where we not only make decisions separately, but also separate from other regulations affecting the same agricultural ecosystem. So plant protection products and pesticides is a focus area for this activity, but it touches upon more generic questions on collaboration across regulatory silos. But what we want to achieve, or at least contribute to, I should say, is a picture more looking like this, where we see the system, the ecosystem, the agricultural ecosystem and the production system as a whole, and where we work more together with the assessments, having a broader perspective on our assessment. Still perhaps working in the same regulatory context, but at least connecting to each other. And also the idea is to you see the little coin stacks there. They're supposed to represent the data that is more coherent and available for other actors, but also have decisions that are more coordinated than today, affecting and creating opportunities and possibilities for more sustainable development. Another very important aspect here is the feedback loop, which is one of the core aspects that we are addressing in this activity 6.4.4, and that we continuously learn from our decisions by linking the retrospective or monitoring of the environment into our prospective assessments. So this is kind of quite a broad description of the work, but it's the starting point where we try to link different aspects and thinking a little bit in new ways. And these figures here, you see the reference here down, the roadmap to the roadmap report, so you can find it on the internet. More concretely then, I will come down to more concrete issues here, potential links to RATION as well, that I wanted to start with the bigger picture here. The objectives of PARC activity 6.4.4 is to improve the environmental risk assessment for plant protection products, to overcome the shortcomings of the current substance by substance paradigm and consider the environmental context more realistically. We want to explore also the possibility to simplify the methods to speed up errors and focus evaluation efforts. Short term, we want to deliver solutions and tools to improve within the current framework. But long term, and at the same time, we are exploring opportunities to develop regulatory feasible and holistic and system-based approaches. And how do we do this then? Well, connect data resources and areas of expertise and collaborate and integrate. And I will come to more concrete examples on that when we come to the project descriptions. We want to improve the realism and relevance of the assessments, and here the linking to measure between the prospective methodology and the measurements in the environment is a key driver for that. We will also wish to decrease complexity by finding out and focus what is really relevant for the prospective and the predictions of environmental impact, and then focus on the relevant aspects. So at what level are we working on? Yes, we're working quite broadly. What we want, here's a graphical representation of what we want to do. As I mentioned, we have a lot of prospective era approaches, and we also have quite a lot of data in all the assessments been done in the past. So we want to combine the data and the approaches, but also checking and integrating models, both new sorry, I got a call here. Models and methodologies, both new assessment methods and conventional ones, but also higher level approaches such as landscape models. We want to test them against monitoring data. So a large part of our work is actually gathering and assembling monitoring data, both on exposure, on effects from throughout Europe, but and also linked to case studies being performed in the environment, where we also can test hypotheses by framing and designing the studies so that we can test the critical hypothesis on what are key drivers, for example, for environmental impact. But this is what we are aiming for in 644, but we also realize we cannot do this alone. So we have worked quite a lot with stakeholder engagement, but also trying to link to and join forces with external ERA advancement projects. So this is one of the reasons I'm here. If we can see if we can find some possibilities to actually collaborate and see if we can strengthen the results on both sides, so to speak. So here we can see that we have a lot of things which we are aiming to funnel by words like collaboration, benchmarking, hypothesis testing, and integration. And the goal is then to have more systems-based and integrated environmental risk assessment approaches, which are focused, more reality benchmarked than today, but also capturing impacts on biodiversity at a landscape level. Another important aspect is also that the data, we aim for having the data coming out of the assessment being reusable by other actors and not just used for making a regulatory decisions. So the approach is to have a stepwise approach then to find small steps with tangible remedies within the current framework, but also towards a more holistic era, overbridging the regulatory, scientific, and societal silos. To list a few aspects of ERA that may be of specific interest, I don't know, for RATION. I learned quite a lot today, and also realized that I come from a field where we work quite a lot with the traditional chemical pesticide assessments, and so many of the problems that we are trying to address emerge from that area, so to speak. And I realized also that you in RATION work with new areas, but maybe there is a possibility to think together. The proposed aspects here of improvement come from also from the EFSA PERA roadmap report. But one of the key drivers here is a strengthened feedback loop for measurements in the environment, which would be addressing the protectiveness to ensure it and also the realism of the assessments. But another is to capture the combined impacts of PPPs, plant protection products, and other ecosystems at the agro-ecosystem level. So we are currently looking at one substance at a time, but here we are aiming to make a more integrated assessment. And very important aspect, I would say, to improve the comparability of data assessments and hence also methodologies. And here we might have common grounds to discuss. And these would address complexity, interconnectivity, and also overbridging silos. Focus on relevant factors and aspects of ERA, which would address the complexity and relevance. Focus ERA issues on relevant process levels. For example, by focusing the product-by-product authorization of ERA to factors actually distinguishing PPPs or pesticides from each other in terms of impact levels. Whereas aspects really more related to how the ecosystem work and regional aspects could perhaps be dealt with not in every dossier, but rather in more supporting surrounding processes. Improved agility to adapt to new policy targets and technical developments and new scientific findings. And here I have underlined things that I think could be of relevance for potential links between RATION and activity 644. And that would be strengthened feedback loop, but also comparability between methods and focus on relevant aspects of ERA. But I will come back to that when I describe them more completely, the projects. Also from the same roadmap report. So here are the activities we have we have 5 different projects in Park 644, and I think we are like 20 different partners. One of the subtasks in Park, there's a lot of hierarchy. We have work packages, tasks, activities, and subtasks, but now we are down to more or less project level at the subtask. We have clarifying regulatory needs, where we continue on the roadmap work that EFSA started to really narrow down what is really needed to address these new needs to actually assess the impact of the combined use of pesticides and also other ecosystem stressors. This is very much linked to the other subtask, which contains comparative studies of ERA methods and monitoring data, where and the other subtasks is more forward-looking to develop holistic and more realistic ERA frameworks. In this subtask of comparative studies, we have one project focusing on exposure, where we actually gather much of this monitoring data I was referring to on one of the previous slides, for specifically for the moment focusing on surface water exposure, where we test also different models to predict what is in the surface water, to see what level of complexity is really needed, how generically applicable are these models being used, both the ones currently being used, but also alternative, potentially also more streamlined exposure prediction models. And the basic idea here is to benchmark and combine and test. And this is ongoing, and preliminary results indicate that we can perhaps focus the exposure models on fewer factors, which would make life easier in terms of reducing the complexity of the exposure assessments. Same approach in an effects project where we gather a lot of measurements of impact also in aquatic environments, where we link them and test them, the predictive capacity of different level of complexity, basically different tiers, and to see how strong is their predictive power of what is actually measured in the environment. This project is, of course, also dependent on what is gathered in the exposure project. In the middle here, we have a project developing comparability between assessments. Here we are exploring different ways of standardizing and really make use of all the data generated for all pesticides so far to see what is really the key drivers to distinguish impact level of different PPPs from each other. Yes, and to the right, we have a project addressing impact at the landscape scale. Here we are testing and introducing new models to assess the impact on the landscape scale, but also at the same time performing case studies to test these models. And we also want to link all of the projects so if we can find at the very left key drivers for impact on the environment, to see if we can kind of link them to at the landscape scale to really see if we can focus the area on the aspects that are really key risk drivers, so to speak. And short term, the goals are to have more reality benchmarked models and methods used in area, and also more focused. We hope that this can provide more faster, more realistic, and more predictable assessments. And to the right, the next step would be then more long term is to create an environmental risk assessment database, where we gather actually historic assessments from all the data that has been generated to have a database where you actually can see the impact level of different PPPs, which could also help in the evaluation work, focus on the pesticides that have the highest impact. It can also be used for actually planning at the authorities on the evaluation resources, but also benchmark the evaluation work afterwards to really see that the pesticides that we in the end authorize are the ones that has the lowest risk, by being able to compare them, potentially also use as a strategic level risk management. I'm coming to the end of the presentation and just giving my thoughts of potential links to RATION. Here, since we are, I have described what we are doing in 644, but we are linking and trying to integrate and establish collaboration with other actors, other Horizon Europe projects, potentially containing more case studies in the environment. We're also having really good discussions on how to move forward together with EFSA, and we are progressing there because EFSA also has a lot of projects in pipeline and ongoing, to see if we can somehow be more efficient by going together and find collaboration areas to support each other and in delivering what we in the end want is the more robust and useful tools for and protective tools for the regulatory era. And here, of course, my simple thought would be then that if there are projects actually doing case studies in the environment where also low risk products might be part, it seems like perhaps something to think about is if the development of new methodology to actually assess them. If we have a concept already where we start to test and validate with a real environment, it might be useful to connect perhaps the development of new methodology with the people actually working on investigating how these assessments actually work in the environment. Moreover, of course, also to benchmark the new methodology for low-risk pesticides to perhaps the traditional way of assessing the impact of chemical pesticides to see that, to really ensure and build confidence that the low-risk products actually are low-risk products, and hopefully or potentially also get an idea how much impact or benefit would it be for the environment by reducing its impact. So by that, I will just like to finish with a slide showing all the partners that we currently have in 644. But as I mentioned, we are trying to link to other projects as well. So with that, I think I should stop and
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Johan, for the insightful presentation and for the trying to get ideas, to get areas where we can collaborate with RATION. We can surely think about it and consider that, although the data generation of the project will come from March 24 onwards. However, there is space for collaboration.
My name is Khalid Amari, and so I'm leading the work package 4, which deal with risk assessment for double-strand RNA pesticide. So the objective of the work package is to develop a novel risk assessment approach, which will address the particular need of emerging double-strand RNA pesticide and will be based on a solid research evidence provided by RATION. So, but first, so what is RNA interference, or RNAi, is a biological process in which RNA molecule, precisely small RNAs, silence a gene either to control gene expression during development or as a defense mechanism against pathogens and pests. So how is RNA interference worked? So the whole process starts with the formation of double-strand RNA, which could be the result of an aberrant RNA or a transgene or a virus infection. And then this double-strand RNA, once the cell sends this double-strand RNA, then the RNA signaling started by the action of dicer molecules, a protein which will chop the long double-strand RNA to small interferon RNA or short interferon RNA, and this small RNA, one of them will guide a degradation complex to degrade the RNA of the virus, for example, or methylation of the DNA in case of the virus. But also this small RNA could also trigger the host DNA methylation, and in this case we are talking about epigenetic effect. So RNAi show lately great potential as an alternative to chemical pesticide, and it has been shown that it has been used, for example, to modulate the gene in the plant, or also to fight pathogen attacks such as viruses or fungi, and also against insect pests. So the problem, the question, is it safe? So does this double-strand RNA, external application of double-strand RNA, we're not talking about GMOs, is safe? Will it also target non-target organism? And then to do that, so we have to look at the RNAi. So as I said, is a natural process, and this molecules is ubiquitously present in nature. So, and also show a high sequence specific depend or mode of action, and also is quickly degraded in the environment. However, the double-strand RNA could be formulated either to enhance its stability in the environment, to protect it from the degradation, then it will last longer, or also to enhance the uptake by the pest. And in this case, the double-strand RNA naked plus the formulation might have adverse effect on non-target organism, and therefore a risk assessment is needed. So to do that, so we need guidance document. Such document exists already for microorganism, pheromone, plant extract. However, for double-strand RNA, such guidance document doesn't exist. So fortunately, so the OECD released a working document entitled considerations for the environmental risk assessment of the application of sprayed or externally applied double-strand RNA-based pesticide. And also recently they also released a working also document on the effect of double-strand RNA on human health. So, and we are going to use this working document as a start for our project, for our work package. So the work package is divided in 4 tasks. So the first and the second task will deal with the hazard identification and the characterization of double-strand RNA pesticide. The third task will deal with the environmental exposure and the fate of double-strand RNA. And the last task, so here we hope to establish a risk assessment scheme for double-strand RNA pesticide and the proof of concept. So the first task, which deal with the hazard identification. So here we will focus on the establishment of guidance and the development of and validation of bioinformatic tools to facilitate the early identification of potential non-target organism. So here what we are going to do, we are going to take the double-strand RNA we are going to work with, and then we will use bioinformatic analysis to predict which non-target organism will be could be targeted, and the relevance of in silico prediction will be evaluated through testing with non-target organism in the next task. So also within this task, we are going to study also the RNAi unrelated effect, such as immune system stimulation in plant and also in insect, but also we are going to check the epigenetic modification caused by double-strand RNA application and their impact in plant and insect also across generation, because it has been shown that this could last for several generations. And based on the previous investigations, a decision-making road map or tool for the selection of non-target organism will be developed. So the second task will deal with the establishment of procedures for hazard characterization of double-strand RNA pesticide, both for the environment and human mammals health. And here we will develop and validate novel and advanced ecotoxicity tests for the double-strand RNA-based product toward relevant non-target organism and functionally relevant organism. So here we will take into consideration the necessary adaptation of existing tests and will be tailored to the characteristic of this new pesticide, such as, for example, longer testing method, determination of double-strand RNA persistence during testing, and also to take into account different endpoint beyond mortality. So the third task, here we will focus on the development and validation of method and tools to determine the environmental fate, translocation routes, and eventually the exposure of different environmental compartments to double-strand RNA pesticide. Here we will develop high sensitivity detection method for double-strand RNA product in environmental matrices such as soil and water, and also all tests and data generated will involve two double-strand RNA, a naked one and a formulated. So also we will evaluate the established and validated mathematical model used to calculate exposure level for synthetic pesticide, if could provide prediction environmental concentration for double-strand RNA pesticide based on experimentally derived input parameters where models are known to be sensitive. And also we will evaluate the prediction accuracy against monitoring data sets already available or data sets generated through the project in case models are not providing acceptable estimate of environmental levels for double-strand RNA. And also we will explore the potential adaptations of existing models to increase accuracy of predictions for double-strand RNA. If this is not possible, a simple mathematical model that is simple to define will be developed, calibrated, and validated against measured datasets produced in the frame of the project. And finally, so the finding of the task 1 to 3 will be summarized and guidance on the new risk assessment scheme developed for double-strand RNA pesticide. As a proof of concept, so the risk assessment of two putative double-strand RNA products, a naked and a formulated molecule, will be generated, taking into account the significantly different environmental and in vivo behavior of these two products, as I said before, concerning the stability and also the uptake by the pest, using the experimental procedure and decision-making tool developed in the precedent task. So the main outputs of RATION, so we hope with this that at the end we will deliver bioinformatics software for the identification of non-target organism regarding the double-strand RNA-based pesticide environmental risk analysis. Also, we would like to develop mathematical model for the calculation of the exposure for double-strand RNA-based pesticide and optimize screening toxicity or ecotoxicity tests adjusted to the needs and the requirement of risk assessment of double-strand RNA-based pesticide, and also a proof of concept of this risk assessment scheme. So as a target organism, so we choose to work with the Colorado potato beetle in potato, and as a target gene, so we choose the actin as a conserved gene targeting several non-target organisms, and also we choose to work with the proteasome subunit beta type 5 as a more specific gene targeting the Colorado potato beetle, and as a negative control we are going to use GFP, and as formulation we are going to use K2SAN. So we started to work, so we needed to have the insect, the pest. So we just the postdoc involved in this work, Mohammed Vatan Paras, went out to the potato field in the GKI facility, and then he collected adult of the CPB eggs and also larvae, and then he started to rear the insects. So now we have a good the system is well established, as you can see here. And so here I will show you some of the bioinformatic analysis we did within the task 4.1. And here, so as I told you before, we used actin because it's highly conserved and abundant protein in eukaryotic cells and play crucial roles in various biological processes such as muscle concentration, cell motility, and etc. And here, as I said, so we choose this actin as a low specific double-strand RNA targeting both the CPB and other non-target organism. So what we did, so we just align the double-strand RNA targeting the actin in the CPB, which have been published. And this double-strand RNA has been shown to be very efficient against the CPB. So we align this sequence of this double-strand RNA with the actin sequence from different non-target organism, and we can see here this cooled theoretically target also the honeybee. As you can see here, we have stressed more than 21 nucleotide. I show you only some of the example, not all of them. Here, for example, the alignment with the ladybug, and you can see here that we have also long sequence homology between our double-strand RNA and the non-target organism. And the second gene, the PCBMB5. So this one is a gene which encodes one of the key catalytic subunits involved in the degradation of the protein for the CPB. And it has been shown that if we interfere with the synthesis of this protein, this is lethal for the CPB. So, and I said we choose it because it's less conserved with other non-target organisms. And indeed, what we did, we mapped the sequence of the double-strand RNA we are going to use with the sequence of the same gene in other non-target organism. And you can see, for example, in the case of the honeybees, we didn't find stretches, long stretches conserved. So in theory, this should not have any effect on the honeybee. However, when we compare this with the ladybug, so here we found a stretch of more than around 23 nucleotide. It means that this less conserved gene could, in theory, affect also the ladybird. So here are the list of the non-target organism which we are going to work with, because they show homology to our double-strand RNA. So like Folsomia candida, the C. elegans, Daphnia in the aquatic section, and also we have some beneficial insects such as the bee, the Bombus terrestris, and also the ladybird. So what are the next steps? So as I said, so we are still with the task 4.1. So here, so we are going to start to develop the computational tool for the identification of non-target organism, either as a standalone program or a web service. And we finally decide on which double-strand RNA we are going to use, and the quantity of this double-strand for the different partners involved in the different work package. And we in theory we are going to receive this double-strand RNA so the next month, and then we can start the work in the next task for the next task. And then with this I think I'm done. Thank you for your attention.
Right. Thank you, Khalid.
You're welcome.
So I see one question already in the chat. So from Faina Kamilova, formulation seems the most critical part of double-stranded RNA. How would you consider the involvement of GMO organisms in the production of and formulation of dsRNA? What would be the regulatory pathway for this type of products?
Well, I'm not really strong in the regulation, but as I say, so here we are dealing with sprayed double-strand RNA, exogenely applied double-strand RNA, because once you have a GMO, then you have to go through the GMO section regulation. So normally, I guess there are some method to produce double-strand RNA, for example, by using bacteria, but normally this bacteria should be deactivated. So at the end of the final product, so we should not have any viable GMO in the final product. Otherwise, then we should follow the GMO regulation.
Okay, thank you, Khalid.
Maybe Salvatore can add something here.